carefully people that serve the government. The sadistic, cold-blooded families that run the New World Order, that own the private banks, that own our governments. It's all illegitimate. It's done through fraud, but they need a police state apparatus and propaganda to be able to secure it, hold it, and expand it. And they do this in phases. If we do not have a renaissance, an awakening to this, an open debate about this, we are going to be hurt very, very badly. We're already seeing just the leading edge of the storm. And it gets more and more intense as we get deeper into it. So I know a lot of you won't listen now, but you'll listen later as it gets harder and harder. It is in 99.9% of our interest to not go along with this. This is hyper-predatory. They believe in social Darwinism. They believe hurting innocent people, killing, enslaving, bankrupting is good for the race. They believe it's their right to rule. This is their own statements. The head of the CFR, Richard N. Haas, publicly, they published this, said the whole global warming thing's fake. It's all about making humans the enemy and the state waging war. It's all about tracking and controlling our every movement. It's a new level of bureaucracy. The war on terror, they admit, is totally fake. Gary Hart admitted 2 days ago, just broke up on Infowars.com, the We Are Change video, said, yeah, our government stages terror attacks, and we'll stage them again. I mean, it's all happening. Now, Hart helped write the Homeland Security Plan. He called for terror attacks. Richard C. Cook, why do you think Gary Hart and Zbigniew Brzezinski and others are suddenly coming out and telling Congress and others, hey, our government could stage attacks? Does that show splits? Why do we see Rockefeller coming and trying to take ExxonMobil chairmanship away from Rex Tillerson? I do see, not fake, because they're not really publicizing it, but I'm seeing real friction within the establishment. Is this kind of at the moment of truth, really decapitating the U.S. and bringing us into this enslavement? Are some of their people going, come on, this is too dangerous, this is too intense? They're waking up to us. They're not going to go along with it. Or is this kind of like the high command that liked Hitler at first, but by 1942 wanting to get rid of him? I mean, is this some sanity, or what's happening?
Well, my opinion is that there is some sanity that is creeping in, because a lot of these people, like Brzezinski, for example, really believed that they were going to build a strong America, and that America was going to be the nation that ruled the world, and now America's being dumped in the trash by the international financiers who've used us and abused us and don't need us anymore. We're being taken down deliberately, and so I think some of the people who formerly were part of the problem are realizing they've got to be part of the solution. And I do know, and I can tell you this, having worked in the federal government for 32 years, there are many patriotic Americans who work in the federal government. You should have heard some of the things that I heard said about Bush, about the Bush administration, about the false terror attacks when I was in the government. There are a lot of people, I think, who are ready to be part of a new movement for American nationalism and take our country back.
Absolutely. That's why we have a lot of friends. That's why I'm still alive. The globalists are not invincible. They have been unified, but now at the moment of truth, there is some rebellion. And so, there is a silver lining here. And I want to break it down this way. Andrew Jackson was in his own time. Andrew Jackson did some horrible things in today's perspective, but in his time, from his view, he really thought he was serving the people. He really wouldn't take money from his office. It was manifest destiny. It was survival of the fittest, but he really was believing it was for the greater good of the general public, at least in a subset racially. I'm not defending that, but you have to respect that he really believed what he was doing. This predator class it revels in going after the smart and intelligent. They want to dumb down the mass. They want to carry out dumbing down, disenfranchisement of everyone. And so they sold a lot of hawks in our government that, yeah, we're staging attacks, and yeah, we're attacking countries, but it's for America. And now those deluded hawks that believe that are now going, wait a minute, this isn't even for America or for my grandkids. Because, the argument of, well, if we're not evil, somebody else will do these tricks and they'll be in control. We've got to guard goodness with pure evil. Kind of like guard the truth, the bodyguard of lies. So there's that rationalization. I think they're now figuring out, my God, this is totally nihilistic, and this isn't even what I signed up for. These people are really going to, this isn't, do you see the point I'm making?
Yes, I think that's happening. Yes, I do. Also, Andrew Jackson, I think, was on the right side in the banking issue. He was the one who got rid of the power of the second bank of the United States.
Exactly, and he was fighting with Native Americans when it would be 5-1, 10-1, 15-1 against the U.S. forces when it was real wars. And when they were being overrun and beaten, so it was a thing of, and then, hiring one native group to attack the other. But now it can be seen as, oh my God, he was engaging in genocide, when it was really life and death struggle between, Ice Age man and, Ice Age Asians that had come over into North America and then into Mesoamerica. And we could certainly in hindsight look at what happened, but, the Hollywood image is the 1880s, the final extermination, the final tracking down. And I think that's wrong. But we can see where the eugenics idea then comes out of that, and now it's just being used as a tool of statecraft and mind control. But I digress.
Now, of course, they're floating the stock market, and the reason they're floating the stock market is because the financiers have so much money in it, and so much of the money in the stock market rides on investments in China. That's a huge part of what is keeping the stock market over the 12,000 level. It's because the American people can't buy that stuff and can't pay for it. So as far as what your investments are concerned, all I can say, get a good counselor, take a worst-case scenario, and go from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, get out of debt, have storable food, try to have a place to boogie out to. I mean, even 5 acres, 100 miles outside your town, away from anybody, if you got to, with an RV and supplies, in case there's riots and total breakdown. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. But if there's a meltdown, it is a very good chance that's going to happen, where they, by design, let things break down for months, sometimes even longer, so people beg to be reorganized. Can you comment on that, Mr. Cook?
Well, I'm going to, in my article that's coming out the next day or two, make a series of suggestions to people once we run through all of the macro solutions about what people should do individually. First thing I put in there is plant a robust home garden. Take care of your food supply.
God help us.
Start community food co-ops. Establish local currencies and barter networks. Get out of debt. Become politically active. Do things that you can do right now to take care of your own needs and those of your family. Don't worry about the big macro economy. I mean, work for change. Try to get politicians in there who will listen to you, but people have also got to take care of their food supply.
And, if the police are ordered to go door to door and take guns, as they admittedly are training to do, cops just don't follow the order. You don't have to even get in a big fight and argue about it. Just say you strained your ankle. Just don't show up. Because I just can't believe they're training for it. I just can't believe they're doing this to us. We can't get focused on the puppet personality. This is an agenda. And all these politicians are on the surface is a simulation. Bush is like birdcage liner. He takes all the blame. He's wicked and horrible and a little demon. I mean, how dare them put out all these details of Spitzer's sexual habits while Bush is packing in gay prostitutes 24/7. I mean, it's just so horrible. But they know how to tantalize us and get us obsessed with looking, at these puppets, while, yes, it was all about suppressing you when they took everything you had. How many years have I been saying that? Mr. Cook?
I think, too, that you've got to realize that the United States has deliberately been made dependent upon gasoline and petroleum. I mean, if you go back to all of the decisions that have been made since really the 1960s, where we were going to rely on the automobile, we were just going to build highways. We weren't going to bother with mass transit. We were going to build all of these big suburbs spread out all over the landscape. We were going to build shopping malls and big box stores where you can't even walk from one place to another. All you can do is drive. They've created the situation where all they had to do was raise the price of gasoline, and this economy would come to a standstill. Now, you've got to obviously get around today, but you've also got to demand of the people in charge that you create an economy that is not totally susceptible to this kind of a chokehold, this kind of a breakdown.
I want to go back to what you just said. I want to go back, because I never heard you say that, and that's exactly what I say on air. If you can just objectively look at what they're doing, and of course they've bragged about it. This is all systematic. They designed everything to be based on the automobile. They paid billions to make sure there wasn't mass transit. And I'm not even particularly defending that. The point is, everything in globalism is to make countries and individuals totally totally dependent in a prison-like panopticon, and to make the globalists who are international exempt from all their rules at the national level, where countries are nothing but individual prison grids. And then they are outside the prison grids with diplomatic immunity. And they've now reported that police in California, 996,000 employees of the government, are all above the law. No DWIs, no arrests, no speeding. I mean, and that's what the late Aaron Russo said that Nick Rockefeller told him. He said, look, we're going to have an ID card, and we're going to be above the law, and you're not.